What's up, everybody? Hope you all are doing great. Today's video, I just wanted to share with you one of my personal favorite supercars in 2025. And no, it is not a 2025 production. This is a 2019 Lamborghini Huracan Performante Spyder with a fantastic spec. Honestly, one of the best specs I've seen, from the color to the features to the interior. Fantastic. And also, this car has a few modifications, I would say, like a VF Engineering tune, Novitec lowering springs, which provides stability, as well as a lovely sounding Fab Speed exhaust. Now, these sound great from factory. No V10 sounds bad stock, and the Fab Speed exhaust was just like an additional bonus, let's say, to the car and to the driving experience. So I'm gonna drive it around. I'm gonna walk you through it and tell you specifically why I think this is one of the coolest platforms from Lamborghini, because as we all know, we have amazing cars from Lamborghini, especially in the V10 range, like the STO, like the Evo. And I was at the launch recently for the Temerario, and I really do think these are going to hold value, if not actually appreciate quite significantly, seeing how the future is going for most supercar brands. So let's get into it. Look how beautiful this spec is on this Performante. Really stunning, from the color to the interior. I'll show you guys the orange stitching to match the brake calipers. So nice, so absolutely very Lamborghini of them, I'll say that. They always do a great job. One thing I will say that I've been told about the Performante platform by people who worked at Lamborghini that are much more qualified than me to talk about this, but they did say that no two Performantes are the same, specifically because of the forged carbon that they basically pioneered. So Lamborghini basically found a way to recycle the carbon fiber that they had by creating a much stronger forged carbon that has a very distinct pattern. However, you can't really replicate this pattern, so each one is unique in its own way. And the same thing goes for the spoiler. It's just really interesting to know, because it makes the car, you know, already being unique, it makes the car even more unique knowing that you'll never have two Performantes the same. Also, with regards to this, it being a Spyder is absolutely beautiful. I mean, just looking at it in nature, it looks like a wild, poisonous animal. And that's why I love these colors that kind of pop in the wild, I would say, but it's not really the wild. But yeah, you get what I mean. It looks like a poisonous snake or a poisonous frog or something. It really blends in perfectly, and I like these distinct features. Another thing that makes me love the Performante as opposed to like the STO or something, which I adore. I love the STO. It's one of my favorite Lamborghini V10s, but these are still on the top of my list because they really hold value for money great. I mean, you still look at the prices on these things and they're still incredibly valuable, and you can tell that they're really desired because they're just going up and up. After, you know, seeing the new Temerario at the launch here in North America with the, you know, I get it, it's an 8-cylinder and all that stuff, and we're moving in an interesting direction with regards to supercars, and they tell me that nobody's going to care about the V10 because it's 900 something horsepower and the features, but not everything is about the features and the statistics. Cars like this, especially Lamborghini, it wasn't about the statistics, it was about the look, the design, the style. These cars have a soul, in my opinion. There's just something about having a glorious screaming V10 engine, mid V10 engine, in a small frame supercar that revs amazing, that you have to put fuel in, that it just sounds great, it drives great. Not too many iPads, not too many electric motors, no plugs to where you have to charge anything and charge this battery and that battery. The car has one battery, the car has one engine, one transmission, not 4 different electric motors on the wheels. So especially really after seeing the new generation of supercars, I really do think cars like this are going to be appreciated even more in the future, because I would like to think I'm a younger gentleman, I'm a younger guy, so I even feel lost in the newer generation cars, because you look at something like this and you get into it, it's the perfect balance between analog and digital. So this is the screen that you get in the middle, and then you have the digital gauge over there. Not an iPad screen here and an iPad screen there and an electronic mirror and all this crazy stuff. Like, I really get confused when I get into some of the newer supercars, I get lost, and I feel like I can't even turn on the AC. When I get into something like this, it's a little bit analog, it's a little bit, you know, like I said, a decent balance between both. I really appreciate that, and I think people will too. Maybe not just yet, but maybe very soon. Actually, this car really holds a special place in my heart, and I really do think that they're, well, I wouldn't say they're underrated because they're really holding value, like I said before, but I still think it's gonna get even better in the future, and this car will be even more desired. And it's not like this had a lack in technology. The ALA system, which is the in Italian aerodynamica Lamborghini Attiva, which is basically the same as saying active Lamborghini aerodynamics. So that is really clever on this vehicle, which is very similar to the one on the SVJ, which I did on the channel. And I showed you in the SVJ that it had certain flaps and certain, you know, openings in the wing to allow the air to reduce drag. So I'm going to show you on the rear wing. Everything looks normal here, right? It looks aggressive over here. Yes, we get it. It has the scoops over here. But again, with the ALA, you look underneath the wing and you will see these vents here. And what this does, it works in harmony with the front vents and the rear vents. There's two rear vents here, one here and one here. And there are flaps here on the front lip, which are right over there. And underneath as well. So one here and one here. And what that does for this car is when you put your foot down in Corsa, let's say, and you're putting your foot down on the track and you want to go really, really fast, it minimizes the drag and it gives you maximum acceleration. So, and it does the same. So it opens the flap from the front, opens the flap from the rear, basically less downforce. So easier airflow, let's say, more streamlined, and that gives you minimum drag and gives you more acceleration. The other thing that's really clever about this one is through corners, it can adapt that. So it's called aerovectoring. So it actually, like a jet fighter, you know how it has flaps and it can move one side of the plane's flaps in one direction and another side of the plane's flap in another direction. It does the exact same thing front and rear. For example, if you're cornering really, really fast, turning right, and you want to put more pressure or more downforce on the right side of the car to give it more grip, it will actually do that. It'll close one side and leave the other side open. So it'll close the side on the right to give it more downforce, basically like adding an extra wing in the front and an extra wing in the back on the right side only. And that's really clever about this car. And again, that's one of the things why I say this is really ahead of its time. So adding to what I said, guys, here's the starting procedure. You know, like the Aventador, you start the car. All right, great. So here we have a little screen. All it shows me is the oil pressure, the engine temperature, and the battery voltage. And then you got everything else here. And all you have here is three options. You have the Strada, which is the street mode, where it shifts very slowly, steering is soft, suspension is soft. Then you go into sport mode, which livens it up a bit, changes the colors here a little bit. But then again, my favorite of the bunch is Corsa, as always. You see how it increased the RPM? It can, you know, if you're driving it all the time in Corsa, it can cause cars like these to overheat. I wouldn't worry about it too much in the Huracan platform, but still, it's just, I like it, like I said, because it stiffens up the suspension. You don't have to do that. You know, you can drive it in sport mode or whatever. But yeah, I prefer driving it in Corsa, and I love to put it in manual, which, you know, makes me in control of the gears because I don't like it to keep changing by itself. But anyways, in Corsa, it will not do that. You have to shift the gears. The other thing is, when I'm in Corsa, and I don't recommend this for anybody to do on, you know, public roads, when you're on a racetrack or in a controlled environment, you can turn off the traction. I just don't like anything interfering, whether it's throttle cutting or excessive, you know, brake tapping or ABS or anything like that. So yeah, especially when we have an amazing all-wheel drive system. is the most American thing you can have in a supercar. We love our cup holders here in the US. And I'm actually for that. I like that because it doesn't really obstruct anything and you wouldn't even know it's there. This is my scale model Lamborghini Performante. It's not an auto art or anything, it's just a basic one, but what we're gonna attempt to do right now is drift the full scale Performante around the baby Perf, hopefully without crushing it, because I do like this, you know, model. So be safe. Yay, safe and sound. Nice. When it comes to the VF Engineering tune on this car, it doesn't necessarily give it that much more horsepower, but it does make it feel a bit more responsive, which is always welcome. The one thing that I really like on this are the Novitec lowering springs, because they decrease the body roll and they kind of make it feel like a race car at high speed. Yeah, just better stability. I will say though, because of the lowered ride height, the chances of you rubbing are higher, as with all Lamborghinis that have lowering springs. So what I like to do most of the time in Lamborghinis, especially because they have a long elongated nose, I like to drive it mostly in Corsa, especially when the road is harsh, which goes against the logic. I know you want the softer ride on the harsh roads, but the stiffer when the track is good and when you're like driving on a track day or something. But on this, because of the stiffness, it doesn't allow that hopping, so it stiffens it up and you're less likely to rub. That's why, in my opinion, it's safer to drive it in Corsa, or, you know, not in Strada at least, because you get that extra stiffness which protects the car as well. So I'm all for that. The one thing I like about the FabSpeed exhaust is that it sounds beautiful, it sounds nice. Granted, again, these sound really wonderful from factory. There's no need for an exhaust system, but hey, that extra, you know, burble or that extra performance that's gained, or the extra lightweight that comes with it, is always welcome as well. So it looks really good. You can see it. It's kind of covered with like a carbon fiber case right there. You can see the FabSpeed right there. It looks good. It's definitely lighter weight. I like them. They're always good. I've used them on my vehicles before. Yeah, and they do a great job. So on this car, it's just another, like I said, welcome addition. So those are the three distinct features about this Performante that make it a little bit more different than another one, is the Novitec lowering springs, VF Engineering tune, and the FabSpeed exhaust. Just wanted to do a full 360 walk around without talking. I just want you guys to look at it, the spec, the colors, and everything that's involved. I really like to just sit back sometimes and just admire this thing, because like I said, it's from 2019, and a lot of car people would agree with me that Lamborghini hit a home run with this. It looks just as good, if not better, than a lot of these supercars that are being produced in 2025. Really, this car does have a soul and something special about it. And I guess I'm growing older, because I never really used to like Spyders, because I understand the theater. I understand it gives you that extra sound from the V10 and the wind going over your head, and that's all beautiful and lovely. But I always thought the coupe looked a bit more like a race car. But now I'm starting to appreciate Spyders a bit more. It really makes you enjoy the driving experience without having to go super fast, because you really get a little bit more theater with the top down. And you know, there's nothing like driving a car with no roof, honestly. I learned that from the Cobra. One thing I will say is, I love on the coupes the fact that this is like a glass see-through engine bay. And thankfully I have the little, you know, die-cast model here, which kind of gives you a reference. And sometimes when the engine bay is gold like this, it looks absolutely beautiful, because Performantes have a gold head on the engine, and that I think looks absolutely great. But other than that, really a special machine. And I guess, yeah, like I said, it took me some time to realize why Spyders are much more desired than coupes, and why they're also more limited in numbers. So I hope you guys, you know, enjoyed this video. That's it for the Huracan Performante, or should I say, that's it for my take on the Huracan Performante. But all in all, I really do see these vehicles going up in value, and just, you know, remaining as pieces of art and pieces that all car lovers cherish. So, yep. I hope to see you guys next time. Ciao.